Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainbows.com, and today, it doesn't seem gnome related, but it is, I'm making sublimation in spring hoops. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about this, stick around. As always, please let me know you're here by hitting that like button. So with sublimation, it's all about the color. I'm going to show you, this is natural light. You'll see what it is in studio light, but what is sublimation? Sublimation is the process of transferring a special ink into a poly fabric or poly coated item. I'm using a 3760, and instead of putting regular printer ink, I put in Cosmos sublimation ink. I'm using a special paper, and I'm using pre-made designs so that I can show you what happens when you transfer this. So when you print it, what's going to happen is you mirror your design, much like when you work with heat transfer vinyl. But you can see it's very dull. It's not the colors we want, but that's okay. Magic is going to happen. You're going to need some kind of fabric. Now, my gnome makers, I'm going to be testing fleece, but if you want to start your practice, get this Dollar Tree Crafter Square 100% poly fabric. It's $1 or $1.25. We're going to be using 5-inch and 6-inch embroidery hoops, a felt to back them, needle and embroidery thread, and a few pins. For the sublimation, we're going to need our printer and our transfer. We're going to need a heat press pad and a heat press of some kind. I'm using the Cricut Easy Press. We'll need lint rollers and butcher paper. To get started, we're going to cut a few pieces of those butcher paper, cut a little extra than you need. We're going to first prepare the backing for our embroidery hoops. Now, my gnome makers, stick with me. I promise you this is relevant to you. We're going to pull out the small of the two hoops, the smaller of the two hoops, and we're going to trace that onto the back of the felt lightly in pencil. The reason we're doing this is because we're going to create a very nice, very finished look at the end. Once you have them traced, you're just going to cut them out, save your scraps, because we'll make a hanger in just a little bit. Now back to sublimation. I am using this process to test whether or not I can create my very own soft, snuggly gnome fabric using this just inexpensive fleece from Joann's. We're going to lint roll our project many times, you'll see me, and I'm going to do what's called a fussy cut or fussy rip right here on this. Any sublimation printer is thicker than printer paper. We are transferring the ink with a heating process and a pressure process. So what's going to happen is, because I'm using fleece and it's a thicker pile, I'm going to get indentations. So I'm going to see how to get those indentations out the easiest way. First step is to protect your work surface. So in between your item and your mat, you're going to put a piece of butcher paper. Then you're going to remove moisture. I'm also checking the pile of the fleece. What is it doing? What does it look like? Can I raise it back up with my lint roller, pushing my finger on it? What's going to happen, right? So I'm just basically pulling it all up. We're going to press it again just to make sure we have all of the moisture out of our project before we start. You're going to let that cool. Now remember, we have mirrored our design, so we're going to press it with the ink side down. And for those of you making the embroidery hoop, just make sure you have enough fabric, about 1.5 inches to 2 inches all the way around. Do secure. We're working with fleece, which is a movable fabric. It just loves to move. So you want to secure your design. So you can use heat transfer tape, or you can use Conde spray. I have some of that I'll use in future projects, but you want to make sure you don't get ghosting. And what that means is your design is shifted during the heating process. So now that we have this all down, we're going to take another piece of butcher paper. We're going to protect our work surface, which is our press. As I mentioned, this is an experiment, so I'm trying 380 degrees at 50 seconds. 50. Now you and I are going to watch this reveal together. This is unedited. I only have my one studio light on. You're going to let it cool. This is real time. This is how long I let it cool before I touch that paper, because it's hot. It's hot. You just heated it to nearly 400 degrees. So you see here, this is why we protect our press. We have ink transfer, and look, that's pretty. Y'all, she's pretty. Look at her color. Woo! But don't touch it because it's still really hot. So I'm taking my fingernail. You can see where that paper had pressed in. You see those lines around? So I'm just seeing if I can remove it with my fingernail. And then I'm also going to lint roll it. Again, just all the way around all these edges. And then I'm going to press the entire thing again. I still have my paper underneath protecting my surface down there. So I need a new piece of butcher paper. Don't use the other one. Why? Because see that ink right there? You could transfer that ink back to your project and you'll be sad, like super sad. So here I am. I'm just, again, our design is down, so we don't have to worry about shifting or ghosting. I'm just pressing that fleece straight down and basically I'm good. There's no more indentation with this particular part of the process. It looks like it was printed on. The reason I like sublimation over heat transfer vinyl is because sublimation will not crack. It will not peel. When you're using a poly fabric like this fleece, the colors come out vibrant and it looks like it was printed at a factory. Now for my gnome makers, why this matters. You can make your own hats. You can make your own ornaments. You can make your own scrap pieces of things. I'm telling you, this is a wonderful part of a business that you can add on either custom work or you can add on extras to put at your craft show table. So just consider this. I will answer any question you have. So as I showed you here, we just put the hoop into its process. We're going to cut off the edge and then I'm going to blow through this exact same steps here because A, repetition makes it solid, and B, I am now going to be testing how small I can read legibly font that is a script style. So I just used her image and I put in Spring Has Sprung right above it. I'm following the exact same process as I followed before. Now because fleece has a thick pile, I wanted to know how small I could get my words. I made them pretty small. This entire design fits inside a 5-inch piece, so pretty small. All right, so now we're just going to follow the exact same steps and then you and I will see this one together. Let's see. I love this part. This is my favorite part of this entire process is the reveal. And do be careful. Again, they make heat resistant gloves, so get yourself some of those if you want. All right, ready? Ooh, she's so pretty. And you can read it. The spring has sprung. So I'm following the same steps here. Now, a little bit later on after I did this and it was all cool, I actually rubbed my hand on the design. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to see how much it changed. Best part, it didn't. So I am basically just testing all of this stuff to figure out how I can make my own custom fabrics, how I can share things from my fellow gnome makers or small business owners. I love this. I love sublimation. It's honestly my favorite hobby I've started in the last 6 or 7 years. All right, so now we're going to prepare the pieces. I'm only going to show you one because it's the exact same step for both. You're going to cut about 1.5 inches to 2 inches all the way around in the fabric outside of your prepared hoop. Then you're going to take a little piece of your scrap felt and you're going to put a tab for hanging on the back. You're going to put it on the side we didn't trace. So you're going to put it on the pretty side. And you're just basically going to line it up perpendicular to your edge, and it will be parallel to your embroidery hoop hardware. So in order to secure that, I just made pretty thick X's all the way down each side so that we have a nice little loop. You'll see me stick my finger in, pull it, make sure it's solid. Ready? Doo-doo, boop. All right, so set that aside, get your embroidery thread and needle, and you're going to make a running stitch all along the outside edge. You don't need a knot for this. You're just going to go in and out of the fabric about 1/2 inch away from the outside edge. And by the way, you will see, because I don't hide anything from you all, right? I give you all my mistakes and all the glory at the same time. You're going to see that I can't cut a circle to save my life. So this entire process here took me 1 minute and 6 seconds. I know all of you love hearing that stuff. I just want to be as honest as possible. So you know this entire thing, both of these took me less than 30 minutes. So I'm going to now, don't pull the threads away on the outside, pull them in the inside and knot them. And it basically makes this beautiful gathered piece. Okay, so you see that? It's pretty flat. It's not all the way flat. What we're going to do is we're now going to make it pretty for hanging. Just make sure when you cut off these strings here, you don't let them dangle over into your artwork, because if you are using a thinner fabric, sometimes those can show through. All right, you want to make it pretty? Let's make it pretty. We're going to line up a parallel our tab and embroidery hardware, and then we're going to pin this felt piece on the back. Do pull it as taut as you can get it. Now listen, if you happen to sew this thing and the backing shifts, don't worry, just cut it off before you sew it down. I've done it 100 times. It's really, really not a big deal. So now you're going to knot a piece of embroidery thread, remove the felt backing just for a second so you can go out the side of your gathered piece. So I have 2 pieces here. I'm going to name them for you so we keep it all clear. The gathered piece is what we just did our running stitch on, and the felt piece is, well, the felt backing. What you're going to do is you're going to create this rope-like stitch all the way along the outside. It doesn't take a very long time. Super easy. You're going to start a 1/2 inch away from where your needle and thread are in, and then you're going to go at an angle up and out the felt. So 1/2 inch away from where your gathered thread is, and then you're going to go up and out the felt. Whole entire thing takes a couple of minutes. Don't poke yourself. The one recommendation I would give you is that you keep the pins in for as long as you possibly can to avoid that backing doing any shifting. And then the other tip would be when you get to the part under the hardware, you may have to do a little finagling, so it might not look the prettiest, just because I tend to, did I just poke myself? Maybe I did. There was no blood, so it's a good day. Just there, I just did that, yeah. Anyway, when you're under the embroidery hoop, you may have to fix up your threads just because the needle I was using was a little bit long. All right, when you get back to where you started, you're just going to tie off a couple of knots. At the very end, you can tie them and hide them under the felt backing, but listen, no one is going to be like, I see a knot. Okay, so don't worry about it. This is an easy, simple, relaxing, supposed to be stress-free craft, okay? To hide that thread, you're just going to go in through the gather and up through the felt. You're going to pull the thread taut, press a little bit down on the felt, snip it off, and it disappears completely. Rub your finger over where that came out, and look, biggity bam. Now again, this is under the studio light, so not the best light. I'm going to show you again what it looks like in natural light, what it looks like in the sunlight. Look at this. I love it. But what do you think? Is this something you'd be interested in doing? Is this a craft that you'd like to know more about? Thank you. You all, thank you. Let me know in the comments what you think, but thank you for being here. Like, share, subscribe for more crafty fun.